In the heart of Saudi Arabia's vast, unyielding desert, where the sands whisper secrets older than time, a chilling tale unfolded, one that would haunt me to my core. It began with a phone call that shattered the stillness of my sleep. My friends, Mohammed, Isa, and Omar, stood outside my door at 11:30 p.m., their voices urgent, insisting I join them for a mysterious errand. Exhausted, I protested, but their persistence wore me down. Little did I know, this night would plunge us into a nightmare from which there was no easy escape. We piled into Mohammed's car, the engine humming as we sped toward an unknown destination. Mohammed, the driver, revealed our mission: deliver a message to Al Rabia, a city 1,100 kilometers away. The plan sounded absurd, but before I could object, the car was already in motion, my protests drowned by their laughter. They promised food, adventure, and a quick trip. But something felt wrong. The air grew heavy, as if the desert itself was watching. Isa, ever the instigator, suggested a shortcut, a forgotten desert road that could shave 600 kilometers off our journey. The Great Desert Road, he called it, a path abandoned for over a decade. Omar warned against it, citing rumors of accidents and strange creatures that prowled its sands. Mohammed hesitated, but Isa's taunts of cowardice won out. Against my better judgment, we veered onto the old road, its cracked asphalt swallowed by dunes under the moonlight. The desert was eerily silent, the kind of quiet that presses against your chest. No gas stations, no signs of life, just endless sand and the faint glow of our headlights. My unease grew as we drove deeper into the wilderness. Then Mohammed slowed the car, his eyes fixed on the rearview mirror. He swore he'd seen an old man standing alone in the desert. We turned back, and there he was, a frail figure draped in a tattered robe, his face etched with age. Beside him stood a massive black dog, its eyes glinting like coals. Mohammed rolled down the window, offering help, but the man's response was cryptic. "I'm waiting for someone," he said, his voice hollow, his gaze unnerving. I glanced at his feet, or where they should have been. His robe trailed into the sand, but beneath it, there was nothing. No legs, no shadow. My heart pounded, but fear silenced me. My friends laughed off my panic, dismissing it as exhaustion, and we drove on. The man's image burned into my mind. Hours later, the road changed. The asphalt vanished, giving way to a rough, dirt path that seemed to lead nowhere. Isa's map app failed, spinning wildly, showing impossible locations. The air grew colder, the stars dimmer. We were lost, stranded in a sea of sand with no signal, no bearings. Mohammed suggested turning back, but the road we'd traveled had vanished. Panic set in. Omar proposed we stop and wait for dawn, a plan Mohammed endorsed, citing a tent and supplies in the car. We set up camp, a flimsy tent against the vast, indifferent desert. As we roasted potatoes over a fire, Isa, unnerved by the thought of snakes, retreated to the car to sleep. The rest of us stayed, trying to shake the growing dread. Then, the fire went out. No wind, no sound, just darkness. Mohammed's face paled. He swore he'd seen something move outside the tent. We relit the fire inside, huddling closer, when a voice called from the void. "Hey guys, are you in there?" My blood froze. Mohammed, trembling but resolute, opened the tent flap. Standing before us was the old man from earlier, his robe dragging across the sand, his eyes gleaming with unnatural light. Beside him, the black dog loomed larger, its form almost human in the shadows. He stepped inside, and I noticed his movements were wrong, too fluid, as if he glided rather than walked. "You shouldn't be here," he said, his voice a low rasp. "This is our place. You've disturbed them." He spoke of friends who'd lived in these sands for 5,000 years, beings who tolerated no intruders. "Leave now, or they'll drag you beneath the earth to prisons where you'll never see light again." Mohammed, summoning courage I didn't know he had, pleaded our case. "We were lost. We meant no harm." The old man's lips curled into a chilling smile. "You have 1 hour. Follow the dog. It'll lead you out. Don't linger." He stepped outside, and we scrambled after him. But he was gone, swallowed by the desert as if he'd never been. The black dog stood by our car, its eyes locked on us. We abandoned the tent, piling into the vehicle. Mohammed floored the gas, the dog racing ahead at an impossible speed, its form shifting, now a bird, now a beast, now something indescribable. The car shook as we tore through the sand, the fuel gauge frozen despite the miles we covered. After what felt like an eternity, headlights flickered in the distance. The main road. The dog stopped, turning to face us. Mohammed, voice shaking, thanked it, apologizing for our intrusion. Then, it spoke, its voice a guttural mimicry of a man's. "We forgive you this time, but never return." It vanished into the air, leaving only silence. We reached the city by dawn, shaken to our souls. Isa, who'd slept through the ordeal, laughed at our story, refusing to believe. But we knew the truth. The desert holds places forbidden to men, realms where ancient beings guard their secrets with ruthless vigilance. That night, we trespassed into their domain and barely escaped. As I sit here, safe in the light, I warn you, if you must travel the desert at night, stay on the known paths. For in the shadows of the dunes, there are things that watch, wait, and never forgive. As dawn broke over our city, the golden light did little to warm the chill that clung to my bones. Mohammed, Omar, and I sat in stunned silence at a roadside cafe, the clink of coffee cups a stark contrast to the terror we'd endured. Isa, still groggy from his oblivious slumber, kept pestering us for details, his laughter fading as he saw the hollow looks in our eyes. "You're serious, aren't you?" he muttered. But we had no energy to convince him. The memory of the old man's legless form, the black dog's shifting shapes, and that voice, human yet not, haunted us. We swore never to speak of it again, hoping distance and time would bury the nightmare. But the desert doesn't forget. Days passed, and life resumed its rhythm. I returned to work, forcing myself to focus on mundane tasks. But sleep eluded me. Every night, I'd wake in a cold sweat, the old man's warning echoing, "Never return." Shadows seemed to move in the corners of my room, and the sound of distant barking sent my heart racing. I told myself it was paranoia, the aftershock of trauma. Then things took a darker turn. Mohammed called me one evening, his voice trembling. "Ali, something's wrong. The car, it's acting strange." He explained how his car, the same one we'd driven through the desert, would start on its own at night, the engine revving as if possessed. Worse, he'd found scratches on the doors, deep claw marks that hadn't been there before. I think something followed us," he whispered. I tried to dismiss it, but my own unease grew. At home, my phone would glitch, displaying maps of unfamiliar desert routes, even when offline. The air felt heavy, as if eyes were watching from beyond the walls. Omar was next. He texted our group chat late one night. I saw it. The dog, outside my window. We rushed to his place, finding him pale and shaking. He swore the black dog had stood in his yard, its eyes glowing like embers, before vanishing into the darkness. Isa, still skeptical, scoffed. But even he couldn't explain the paw prints we found in the sand outside Omar's house. Sand that shouldn't have been there in the middle of the city. Desperate for answers, we sought out a local sheikh known for his knowledge of the unseen. His small, cluttered room smelled of incense, and his piercing gaze seemed to see through us. We recounted our ordeal, leaving nothing out. The sheikh listened in silence, his face growing graver with each word. "You entered a place forbidden to humans," he said at last. "The desert is home to Jinn, ancient beings who guard their realms fiercely. You trespassed, and now they've marked you." "Marked us?" Mohammed asked, his voice barely a whisper. "Return to the desert," the sheikh said. "Find the place you entered. Offer an apology, a sacrifice, something to appease them. If you don't, they'll claim you, one by one, and drag you to their prisons beneath the sand." We left the sheikh's house shaken, torn between fear and disbelief. Isa refused to go, calling it superstition, but Mohammed, Omar, and I knew we had no choice. The signs were escalating. My dreams now showed the old man standing over me, his robe pooling like ink, whispering my name. We had to end this. 2 nights later, under a moonless sky, we drove back to the desert. Mohammed's car rattled as if reluctant, the fuel gauge flickering despite a full tank. We followed the same route, our hearts pounding as the city lights faded behind us. The great desert road loomed ahead, its cracked surface unchanged, yet it felt alive, pulsing with malice. We stopped where the asphalt ended, the dirt path stretching into the void. With a lantern and the sheikh's instructions, we set up a small circle of stones, placing offerings inside, dates, water, and a handwritten plea for forgiveness. Mohammed recited verses from the Quran, his voice shaking but steady. The air grew thick, the temperature plummeting. Then we heard it, a low growl echoing from all directions. The lantern flickered, casting wild shadows. From the darkness, the black dog emerged, larger than before, its form rippling as if made of smoke. Behind it, the old man appeared, his eyes burning with fury. "You dared return," he hissed, his voice like sand scraping stone. "You think your trinkets can undo your sin?" Mohammed stepped forward, his courage faltering but holding. "We meant no harm. We beg your forgiveness. Take our offering and release us." The desert night pressed against us, a suffocating shroud of silence broken only by the black dog's low growl and the old man's ultimatum. "One of you must stay. A life for your freedom." His words hung like a curse, his eyeless gaze boring into us. The air was thick with the stench of something ancient, sulfur and decay. Mohammed, Omar, and I stood frozen, the circle of stones and our meager offerings looking pitiful under the flickering lantern. The black dog's form shimmered, its edges blurring into the darkness, as if it could unravel into something far worse. Mohammed's voice cracked as he spoke, his courage fraying. "Please, there has to be another way. We'll leave, we'll never come back. Take anything else, anything but one of us." The old man's lips twisted into a mockery of a smile, revealing teeth too sharp, too many. "You trespassed. You woke what should have slept. The price is set." The dog snarled, its eyes flaring like twin suns, and I felt my knees buckle. Omar clutched my arm, whispering, "Ali, we can't let them take one of us." But the choice was impossible. Who would stay? Mohammed, Who'd driven us into this nightmare? Omar, whose warnings we'd ignored. Me, haunted by the old man's legless form since that first encounter. Or could we defy them, these jinn who claim the desert as their own? The Sheikh's words echoed in my mind. They've marked you. I glanced at the car, its scratched doors glinting in the moonlight. A reminder that their reach extended beyond this forsaken place. Then a desperate idea struck me. Wait, I said, stepping forward, my voice trembling but resolute. You said we carry your mark. If it's us you want, why not take something we've already given? I pointed to the offerings. Dates, water, our written plea. These are ours from our hands, our hearts. Isn't that enough? The old man tilted his head as if intrigued, but the dog's growl deepened, vibrating through the sand. You think your scraps appease us? He hissed. Bloodbinds? Nothing less. Omar, shaking, whispered, Ali, don't provoke him. But I pressed on, grasping at the Sheikh's advice. Then take our vow. We'll carry your warning, tell others to avoid this place. Your realm stays hidden, untouched. Isn't that what you want? The old man's eyes narrowed, and for a moment, the desert held its breath. Then a sound like distant thunder rumbled beneath us, and the ground trembled. The dog's form split, multiplying into 4 smaller beasts, their eyes glowing in a circle around us. A vow? The old man sneered. Mortals are break vows, but I'll test your resolve. He raised a hand, and the sand around us erupted, swirling into a vortex that stung our skin. The lantern shattered, plunging us into darkness, save for the dog's fiery eyes. Survive until dawn, he said, his voice echoing from nowhere and everywhere. Prove your will. Fail, and all of you belong to us. With that, he dissolved into the sand, the dogs vanishing with him. The vortex collapsed, leaving us alone. Or so we thought. Mohammed grabbed my shoulder. What did you do, Ali? Survive until dawn? How? I had no answer. The desert was no longer just sand. It pulsed with malice, shadows shifting where none should be. Omar pointed to the car. We need to move, now! We stumbled toward it, but as Mohammed turned the key, the engine sputtered and died. The fuel gauge, full moments ago, now read empty. Claw marks appeared on the windshield, etching themselves as we watched, forming words in an ancient script none of us could read. Panic seized us. The tent, I said. We'll barricade ourselves until sunrise. We dragged the tent's remains back to the stone circle, huddling inside as the temperature plummeted. The desert came alive with whispers, voices in no human tongue, chanting our names. Omar clutched a pocket Quran, reciting verses, but the words seemed to falter against the growing cacophony. Mohammed's flashlight flickered, revealing glimpses of shapes outside. Tall, twisted figures with too many limbs circling the tent. Then, the tent flap tore open, though no hand touched it. A gust of icy wind carried a voice. Choose. The dogs reappeared, their forms now grotesque, limbs bending unnaturally, mouths dripping with black ichor. One lunged at Omar, who screamed, scrambling back. I threw a stone, and it passed through the beast like smoke, but it recoiled, as if pained by our defiance. Keep fighting, I shouted, grabbing anything. Sticks, stones, our offerings, and hurling them at the creatures. Mohammed joined me, his fear giving way to fury, while Omar's prayers grew louder, a desperate shield. The hours stretched into eternity, each attack more ferocious. The Jinn tested us, their forms shifting, now the old man, now faceless children, now beasts with human eyes. My hands bled from clutching rocks, my voice hoarse from shouting. But as the sky began to lighten, the assaults weakened. The dogs retreated, their growls fading into the wind. The first ray of dawn pierced the horizon, and the desert fell silent. We collapsed, gasping, our bodies bruised but alive. The stone circle was intact, our offerings gone, as if consumed. The car roared to life, the fuel gauge inexplicably full. We drove in silence, the desert receding behind us, its secrets sealed once more. Back in the city, we found Isa waiting, his skepticism shattered by nightmares of dogs and sand that had plagued him since we left. He never doubted us again, but the Jinn's mark lingered. Mirrors sometimes showed shadows that weren't ours. Dreams brought whispers of the old man's voice. We kept our vow, warning others to avoid the great desert road, though few believed us. The desert guards its mysteries, and we, the marked, carry its warning etched into our souls. I still hear the dogs at night, their howls a reminder. We survived, but we'll never be free.